All right, Bill O'Connor, San Francisco-based innovation strategist for Autodesk. This is one of my favorite topics in the world. Who likes future of work as a topic? Who's bored by it? All hands should be up, right? It's a crazy topic. I've been really focused on the future of work for the last 3 years, and I've noticed that anytime you're in a future of work conversation, there's always two things. One, massive complexity in the conversation, and strong emotions. Why? Massive complexity because of the number of technologies that are driving the future of work. It's super complex. I'm going to talk about 9 of them today, but also strong emotions, right? Depending on who you talk to, the future of work is going to be unbelievably great, cool, wild, but also scary, threatening, possibly an existential threat to the human race, right? So for the purpose of this talk, I want to address the complexity with a fairly simple idea. By the way, I'm borrowing from some of Andrew Anagnos's talk at Main Stage, but the basic idea is these technologies are meant to serve us, help us to automate our mundane tasks, things we don't want to do, and augment the things that we're naturally good at, right? So whenever you see this giant blizzard of technologies, I just think of it as like, yeah, that's helping me automate, and that's helping me augment my natural capability. So that's the way I sort of battle the complexity. On the emotional side, I'm an optimist. I think the future is bright for the future of work. Not just because it's going to be cool new technologies, but also because the world needs reinventing and reimagining. This is like a reset to some degree, all these new technologies at the same time. So I think we can reimagine the things about the world that need to be reimagined. Caveat, it's got to be bright for everyone. It can't just be like a techno elite that's in charge and masters and makes the technology. It's got to be for everyone. Easier said than done. I'm going to talk about training and reskilling today. So if you ask famous technologists about the future of work, you ask Ray Kurzweil from Singularity University, he's going to hit you with a Star Trek mode. He's going to tell you it's live long and prosper, the technology is going to serve us, it's going to be fantastic, right? But if you ask Elon Musk, he's going to scare the hell out of you with a little bit of a Matrix vibe, right? Like, yes, technology is great, but existential threat, please be careful, right? So this is the full gamut of how good or bad the future of work can be. I'm an optimist. I think it's going to be closer to Star Trek. But to set up this discussion, historically, right, technophobia is not new. 200 years ago, the Luddites were breaking machines because they were afraid about the future and their jobs. These headlines go back to 1928 and beyond. We've always had a love-hate relationship with technology. Fortunately, none of this has come true yet in the way it's been described. But in the last 3 to 5 years, my God, the dialogue has kicked up. Future of work, AI apocalypse, all of this stuff, mostly because of the jumps in AI, but also because of all these other emerging technologies. And in this cover, you can see the full range of dystopia and utopia, right? Now, what technologies are we talking about? Instead of just saying it in general, we're talking about 9 that I think are important. Cloud computing, infinite computing, additive manufacturing, generative design. We've also got AR, VR, IoT, robotics automation. Then a little bit further out, we've got bio-nano. Quantum computing is coming, and of course, AI, right? So we can see how that's complex, but again, it's all towards the idea of automation and augmentation. And these two superpowers of the future of work are going to help us do, this is drawn from Andrew Anagnos's talk, more, better, and less. More projects, more products, hopefully employing more people, better in terms of quality and methods and outcomes, and less time, money, resources, and less impact on the planet, right? So this is kind of a good mantra for the future of work, but also it's about jobs. New, more, better, and new jobs. Now, I know people are worried about job loss, right? But whenever you see a historical era like this, including the current one, you look back, we've always had more jobs statistically, we've had better jobs, and we've had new jobs, better jobs. If you were a drafts person in the 80s and AutoCAD came out, that made your job better. It didn't really change it completely, but that made your job better. And you talk about new jobs, 20 years ago, was there anyone really who was a blogger, or actually 25 years ago, a podcast person, a blogger, an SEO specialist, a VR designer, an AI strategist? So I think of the future of work as an airport. You can see the departure lounge very easily. You can see what's going away, and it's scary. Harder to see what's coming in, right? Because it's harder to imagine things that don't exist yet. So we have a little bit of an optical illusion, right? But I think that why shouldn't our era be similar to other eras where we have more jobs, better jobs, and also new jobs? I think that's quite possible. We've got to make sure, the jobs thing is key to make sure the future of work works for everyone. So now let's ground this discussion in our world, the world of everybody here, where we imagine, design, create buildings, infrastructure, products, movies, films, etc. And let's ground it in the world at large. 10 billion people by 2050, 75% will live in cities. The burgeoning middle class wants more, the things that you want. When you hit that level, you want cars, computers, homes, you're going to be using more energy, right? Andrew Anagnost said that to meet the needs of 10 billion people, we're going to have to do about 1,000 buildings a day. Did you guys hear this? For the next 33 years, isn't that exhausting, right? So we are not set up with the current capacity to do all of this more. And then if you get to the planet, it's even more dire in a way, right? We have to have less of an impact. But at the same time, we have to do more on the people side. We have to do less impact on the planetary side. So again, it's a massive opportunity. It's not a zero-sum game. Again, if you look back historically, times of incredible change are also times of incredible opportunity. So now let's ground this more, better, less idea in a sort of very tangible example. I don't know if you guys saw this at main stage. Let's posit a machine that just sucks up the roads, grinds them up, uses that recycled material to create more roads, right? But it's not just, there's three aspects to that story. There's the technology that allows you to create the machine. There's the job, this guy or that woman there's a new job designing the machine, running it, repairing it, etc. But then there's the skills, right? So it's a bit of a it's a misdirection to say, oh, the jobs are going away. The problem is you can create this machine and therefore create a job, but if you don't have the skills for that job, it's not really a job, is it? It's more of a concept, right? So training and reskilling, that's the holy grail. That's been the bottleneck, right? So what are some best practices around that? Greenville, South Carolina, right? This has been a textile hub. They had 50,000 people working there in 1990, and today I think it's something like 6,000, right? Because textiles moved elsewhere for various macro reasons. So you think the economy would be terrible, but it's not, because they embraced advanced manufacturing. They started courting large manufacturers, Bosch, GE, etc., people doing a lot of auto parts. And they not only got good at the whole auto part thing in that part in the town, they also got good at retraining per se. They pumped all this money into state-sponsored retraining, and they got a reputation for being the place that will keep up with things, right? So when BMW wants to put a plant somewhere, I'm going to go to you because you've got the auto experience and you've got this approach, this ethos around training, right? So the good news is 9,000 jobs have come back in manufacturing from 2010 to 2014, right? And this place is known as a place where you better keep your skills going, and you can be a beneficiary of that if you do it. This is Diane Page. She used to work in the textiles industry. Her company was sold. What do you do? She pivoted. She took advantage of that state-sponsored training. And again, state-sponsored training, it's private and public together, pretty much have to do that. And now she's a skilled machinist, and expert machinist. She trains other people, making more money than she did before, right? On a state level, this kind of retraining program brings $500 million into the local economy. How much did they spend to get it up? 1/10 of that. So this shows you that when you invest in training and in people, you can get great return, but it also shows you that advanced technologies and job growth can go hand in hand, which is not always what people think, right? So let's not be naive. There's going to be disruption. There is some disruption. Every time you go from one era to the next, right, there are people that are left behind. There are regions that are left behind, right? I believe we have to do everything we can to stop that. Why is that the case? Well, there's a skills gap. What you learned yesterday and you're applying today, that's not going to help you tomorrow necessarily, right? So now if you have access to technologies and to training, this can be a massive opportunity for you, right? I would imagine the people in this room fall into this category, right? You didn't wander in off the street to AU, right? Your career path kind of led you here, right? So you're probably on that curve. So, we could be fine, but what about the folks that don't have access to training or technologies, right? As Andrew Anagnost said, that could make it like a valley of dread for them, right? Thank you, Scott. Oh, I thought he was waving to me. Was that 5 minutes or just you're happy to see me? Okay. And you're happy to see me, right? Okay. No, you're not. Okay. So it's a valley of dread for some people, right? And I think that's what's driving a lot of this media coverage. And by the way, a lot of the politics in this country, at least, is that idea of people feeling that they're being left behind, right? And so that Greenville, South Carolina example is very positive and very germane and essential. Because again, if we can create the machine, like in that example, and then create the job, if people don't have the skills, it's going to be this bifurcation of society, which we don't want, right? So Autodesk is trying to address this in a very direct way. How many Autodesk customers are here? Direct customers? Okay. Very good. If in our tools, we're trying to bring learning into our tools so that you can say, oh, here are the skills that I've learned. In a very structured and beautifully designed way. Here are the skills that I need to learn or that some system is recommending to me. This is generative learning, just like generative design. Generative design, suggesting design options, generative learning. Here's your learning plan, right? Or here's what you'd have to do to go into a new profession. Now that's kind of cool, right? The idea that it's thinking on your behalf. So again, the technology is almost a given at this point. I listed 9 of them. You could list 8. We know the technologies are crazy, but it's about the people. It's about the training. It's about the skills. And by the way, these are what you call hard skills. These are very tangible. You know, you can prove it in court. I can compare your skill with his, etc., right? But I want to talk about another set of skills. You can call them the soft skills that are important. Remember we said automation and augmentation? What are we augmenting? We're augmenting our natural human capabilities. The things that humans are much better at than computers for the time being. Anyway, right? Let's hope so. So I want to talk about some skills. We could also do a map of the things I'm about to say, right? So if we want to stay economically viable as human beings in the next 10 to 20 years, here's a list of skills that we need, meta skills we need to really pay attention to, right? What are we better at than machines? Well, we're better at empathy and emotion, responding to another person. We're better at communication and collaboration, 100% right now. We're better at beauty and aesthetics and quality, that's subjective stuff, right? We're better at imagination and creativity and innovation. And now we're really better at flexibility, right? Improvisation, adaptation. Computers are still pretty bad at that. And finally, the meta skill is creating great experiences for humans, right? You're a human being with money. I want to create an experience for you, so you will give me the money. A computer here cannot create a great experience for you. You see the point? So we are still better than the computers at all of those skills. You see the difference? These are very tangible, and you can really see them and measure them. But that other list I just came up with, you can find lists like that all over the place. Those are the things that make us human. And those are the things that we're going to try to augment in the future of work. If we don't augment them, then the computers and the machines are going to take the jobs, the low-hanging fruit. So we got to stay up here and really focus on what makes human beings good. So either way, it's upskilling or reskilling as you go. So where are we, right? We are in the middle of one of these amazing, the Chinese say, may you live in interesting times, right? Well, check that box. I've studied innovation going back 3.5 million years on another project. I can't think of a time where there's been more emerging technologies at the same time with a more radical effect. Not in entire human history. That's where we are. We're in one of those gaps. And as my boss John Pittman and I have said for years, in times of change, and especially you have to look at your mindsets. What are your skill sets and what are your tool sets, right? To really evolve with the times. That's more true than ever. And so what's Autodesk's role in all this? Whether you think, actually let me do a poll. If that side is this is a great adventure and it's exciting, and this is Valley of Dread, how many people feel like they're in the exciting adventure thing? How many people feel Valley of Dread? I'll talk to you later. I'll buy you a drink. How many people feel it's both? Or it depends, right? So that's really where we are right now. And Autodesk, it's kind of an interesting time for Autodesk too, right? We want to provide customers with, yes, the tools, of course, but increasingly, like that example showed, the training also, and the ability to reskill. And finally, to do a third T, whatever thought leadership we can bring to it, right? So at Autodesk, we are really hoping to enhance your superpowers for future of work. And I think you see what I'm saying. You can pour everything out there into one of these two buckets, automating your mundane tasks that you don't want to do, never think about it, and augmenting that list of human capabilities that can allow you to create great experiences for people and still be economically viable, right? So that's the superpowers, automation and augmentation, to allow us to do more and better and with less. And again, this is not just for our careers, but this is also for the planet, because the systems we have set up now are not sustainable. So that is my argument for why I believe that, to quote the old song, the future is very bright for the future of work. Go thee forth and automate and augment. Thank you very much.